The most common perception of power revolves around the narrative that B has power over C to the extent that he can get C to do something that C would not otherwise do. This is just one of the many presentations of power today. The first face of power is often the most conventional, where B issues threats to C or provides material incentives to influence changes in behavior. This is the most common form of power that is easily recognizable in global politics today. Great powers have always established regional orders, either independently or interdependently, with the sole focus being stability that in turn enables influence. Actors with a lot of material at their disposal are often viewed as powerful, at least compared to other resource-deficient counterparts. However, superior military capabilities do not exactly provide easy victories, as US discovered in Vietnam, Afghanistan, and Iraq, while Russia found out in the Winter War with Finland and is finding out with Ukraine right now. Whatever Russia is going through in Ukraine is evidence that great powers more than just stumble when supposedly facing weaker opponents. The fact that great powers enjoy significant success when going to war with potentially weaker opponents implies that no actor wants to be perceived as potentially weak. Power as coercion and as authority are different. Coercion is hard, compulsive and economic power, with the economic being less visible as it rarely includes military activity. In political authority, B commands C to alter their actions through direct orders. The hierarchies of international realms document the relationship between political authority and social contracts, which goes against the presentation of global politics as anarchical in that sovereign states cannot allow others to issue binding orders. Relational authority with the foundation of a social contract relies on the relationship between the ruler and the ruled. In this form of authority, B issues a political order or instruction to C, with the order being good enough to the point of offsetting the loss of freedom in the case of C to the point that C allows B to issue restrictions on behavior. Even though states lack proper authority over other sovereign states, they can exercise relational authority with the premise being international order. Consequently, international politics is a continuous struggle for authority that enables some actors to rule with the consent of those who are less powerful. The actors perceived to have the right to issue orders are obviously the powerful ones because they can create and sustain political order that is acceptable by others. The second phase of power encompasses actors' ability to influence others' interests, beliefs, and preferences, a more effective form of power that is invisible and is perceived as more effective. The invisible form of power focuses more on imposition of internal constraints by forming preferences and interests that match those of the powerful actor. The aim of the second phase of power moves beyond changing behavior to include altering beliefs. Various considerations are important when assessing attraction and how it's used to harness or exercise power. It is essential to determine whether attraction to a power player is passive or active. Passive attractiveness revolves around being instead of doing. Being the perfect role model could be good enough motivation to change the behavior of others, but it is being abandoned by international actors who are realizing that they can shape how they're perceived by others, a phenomenon influenced by the great power competition. Also, it is important for international actors to determine whether the image perceived by other players is a reflection of the values at home. Attractiveness is only genuine when countries are honest about the values they stand for, but that attraction fades fast when it emerges that it is based on deception. This phenomenon explains why authoritarian and totalitarian regimes rarely exercise soft power, because what they portray abroad and what happens locally are completely different. Projecting a false image only succeeds in the short term, but the long-term effects are detrimental. The elements of attraction to a particular actor are important when determining the kind of image that exists and one that requires to be created. Some of the most common attraction elements include culture, economic models, values that could either be political or social, lifestyles, and education, among others. Active attraction encompasses deliberately exporting elements of soft power such as culture, language, education, and political values. It is possible to uncover aspects of a country that make it more or less attractive to certain actors depending on what the country wants to achieve. For example, Islamic societies might like every aspect of American life, including education and political values, but not their culture and/or social life. There are variations in the degree to which a country may have opinions over others. The power over opinion discussion is largely based on the feeling of goodwill towards a country, which facilitates cross-border interaction and cooperation. Power over opinion could shape public attitudes to the point of influencing action, as in the case of using propaganda to overthrow a country. The third phase of power revolves around B using power to determine which issues will make it to decision-making and which ones don't. There is an exercise of power when B is involved in making decisions that affect C. Exercising power also entails B investing resources to create or reinforce the institutionalization of social and political values that surround issues innocuous to B. The success of B implies that C is prevented from bringing forth any issues that could be detrimental to the preferences of B. The ability to independently control local and global decision-making processes is a great manifestation of power. This power comes with the right or ability to veto or frustrate the decisions being made by international organizations. A recent fourfold typology of power includes compulsive, institutional, structural, and productive power. Structural power, also called structural constitution, is the production of super and subordination or domination occupied by actors. Productive power is the constitution of all social subjects with various social systems through systems of knowledge and discursive practices of a general scope. Structural power is directly involved with the relationship between the structurally advantaged and disadvantaged, while productive power focuses on the subjects being produced. Classifications such as civilized, rogue, European, unstable, Western and democratic states are a prime example of productive power since they are associated with the generation of asymmetrical social capabilities. Employing productive power is time-consuming because of the social interactions required by actors to be produced, but once produced the outcomes are long-term. In the case of structural power, states enjoy certain degrees of autonomy, both internally and externally, but there are inequalities between states as measured by economies and military power. This phenomenon gives rise to master-slave and capital-labor relations. The social capacities and interests of small and great powers are different, with these differences giving rise to inequalities. Productive power facilitates the creation of social categories that allow the addition and removal of actors. Institutional power forms part of attraction as an approach to gaining soft power. The multilateral component of institutional power makes it less visible and allows its use in ways that may fail to address some issues. The fact that a number of international actors are involved in a wide range of institutions implies that it is impossible to overlook the importance of institutional power. The decay of power, especially in the global stage, is largely examined from the perspective of large powers failing to achieve desired outcomes. Also, the interconnected nature of global politics has enabled small powers to resist the influence of greater powers. Particularly, the rise of multiple great powers has not only reduced the likelihood of a World War II-level conflict because of the potential outcomes, but has also enabled smaller powers to realign themselves with powers that serve their interests. Power is becoming increasingly easier to lose, and as such, countries are becoming increasingly cautious of how they pursue their interests locally and internationally.